we have a standing ovation even before we begin. Good evening and welcome. My name is Elizabeth Rennie, and I'm a long-time resident of Burlington, and your MC for this evening. Being here, you show your interest in this community and the issues and challenges of today, and how these affect Ward 2 and Burlington now and in the future. As I welcome you, I acknowledge not only the value of your attendance, but also your willingness to ask questions, to listen respectfully, and I heard from two people, and to learn from regarding the issues and the matters that are so important and impact our city. Be assured that your vote counts. All the candidates in Ward 2 have been invited to this evening, and thank you very much for accepting this invitation, candidates. This evening's format will be as follows. First, the candidates will be given an opportunity for an introduction, which will be a 2-minute introduction. You'll notice that the candidates are in particular order, and they have drawn to be in that order and to speak in, to have their places there. The second session will be, moderator will read some pre-selected questions that were generated from social media, print, and from the candidates. The third part, the moderator will read your questions. And these questions are drawn from what you have indicated you want to ask. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes to answer the question, and the timekeeper, Steve, who's crawling in front of us. Maybe it's not Steve. That's not Steve. He will make sure that the time is kept and adhered to promptly. All the questions will be asked through the moderator. So I will introduce to you the moderator this time. Mark Carr is this evening's moderator. He also is a long-time resident. Perhaps he and I could compare how many years makes long term. And Mark has volunteered in many areas in this community. He is the executive director of a non-for-profit agency, and Mark has been involved in politics and public issues for many years, for 20 years, through his program, The Issue, and the Roundtable on your TV. Mark has received many awards for his public service. Make no mistake, Mark is a skilled and experienced moderator. He has moderated debates for several years, including provincial, municipal candidates events. This year, he will have moderated 5 ward candidates meetings. And these meetings have been sponsored by the engaged citizens of Burlington. Thank you, Mark, wherever you are. Once again, you are giving service to your community. Thank you, Mark. And welcome the candidates, please.
I'd just like to preface this forum and talk about being a candidate. When someone decides to be a candidate in any election, this decision is not taken lightly. Cost, time, personal and family sacrifice are all taken into account. I applaud everyone up here and everyone who chooses this democratic endeavor, and all candidates deserve a big round of applause. So I do want to get some housekeeping out of the way. For full disclosure, I have a brother who's running in the election for regional chair, so just get that out there right off the bat. Candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Questions will be asked in the order they've selected, and we'll have 2 minutes to respond. Move in the next order to the next candidate, so that all candidates will respond to all questions. If one candidate directly or indirectly refers to another candidate, I'll give that particular candidate 30 seconds to respond. So that should limit any of that. And the candidates will also have 2 minutes for a closing statement. To the audience, we do want to be respectful to all candidates. I'm sorry for turning my back to this group over here. I'm asking the audience not to respond positively or negatively to a candidate's answers, but applaud after the candidate has given their full answer. You ready? Let's get this puppy going. The cornerstone of any municipality is the official plan. Burlington passed the plan and sent it. I didn't give you 2 minutes, did I? That's the second time I've done that.
I mean, I don't need it.
You know what? By 4 years from now, I'll have this down pat. Okay, so we'll start with 2 minutes from each of the candidates.
My name is Lisa Kearns. I'm running to be your Ward 2 Council candidate in this municipal election. Many of you know me for my actions in City Hall looking for a more sensible approach to the official plan. And for others here tonight, I invite you to get to know me a little more. I live in Burlington with my family, my husband and 2 children, and we enjoy an unparalleled quality of life. I'm looking to continue that quality of life in Burlington in a way that we can get behind a new plan and a vision for a Burlington that we can all be proud of. I look to connect our community by hosting our annual St. Luke's Love My Hood program, and I also have volunteered at the Central Market to bring a healthy, vibrant, and inclusive community on Sunday mornings. My strong background and professional experience positions me very well to represent the interests of many stakeholders in a role at City Hall. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Rolling 2 minutes.
Okay, firstly I want to thank you, Colin, and thank Mark Carr as well. These debates have been extremely well organised and, as you can see, very well attended. So Burlington has a problem, and it's had a problem for a long time now, and unless we do something about it right now, it's going to be too late. We all know what the problem is. It's overdevelopment, especially downtown. Now, I've knocked on thousands and thousands of doors, and about 80% of the people I've spoken to have told me that overdevelopment is the primary concern that they have. And the residents of Ward 2 have had enough. So I tell you right now that nobody will be stronger than me in opposing intensification done in the wrong way and in the wrong places. While it's true that we're mandated to grow, it is not true, I repeat, it is not true in the least, that what we're seeing downtown is something that is mandated by the province. The problem is City Council. The majority of the councillors don't listen to you, they don't respect you, they don't value your opinions. I've watched council for 10 years treat residents with contempt, with rudeness, and with arrogance. It's what the Shape Burlington Committee was meant to fix in 2010, and I've seen just this summer certain councillors call residents of Ward 2 entitled, privileged, members of the 1%. That's appalling. That has to stop. There has to be a complete change of culture at City Hall. I'll be the advocate for that change. I've already been trying to fix council for over a decade. I delegated with Save Our Waterfront. I helped create the Shape Burlington report, which inspired ECOP. And in my business career and as a volunteer, who's given thousands of hours in leadership roles, I have a track record of working with people and of getting things done. So I promise today in front of all of you, nobody will work harder for you to fix what's wrong at City Hall. Thank you.
And I bought my first wartime house down here on Hopi Avenue 16 years ago. With my family, we're still crammed in there to this day. I first volunteered, and my interest first started in city politics with Peter Tom as a part of the Community Advisory Committee. From there, I got to know Penny Hirsch, and we then went on to help the Save Our Waterfront Committee with Mary Ann, where we advised and delegated against the over-intensification 10 years ago. This time with ECOB, I did not get engaged with them because I knew that our council was not willing to listen to us. I had the sign on my lawn and delegated on my own. I've delegated over the years on various issues, from the pier to LaSalle Park, water bottles, and many others. It was always refreshing to have Mary Ann at council because she would always give a smile before you delegated, and I know those small touches help when it comes to sitting in front of that council. Tonight you're going to hear many different viewpoints, and there are several differences between us where we conduct ourselves. In my career, I was manager of a small business at James and Elizabeth, downtown Burlington, got my master's in business and environment, and now I work at Staples head office looking after energy efficiency and efficiency for our processes to save money for the company. I've got a daughter down here at Lakeshore Public School, and I try and commute home as fast as I can to in the maddening traffic that we all face daily. So that's one of my top issues to work on, because the traffic impacts my family, my health, and the safety of our neighborhoods. And because of the over-intensification and the traffic, we're sort of missing some of the smaller things that happen in our neighborhood. Break-ins are happening, rocks through my neighbors' windows, Kimberly signs getting stolen, for instance. So I think we have to start looking at some of the small stuff as well. We have some great assets that we've invested in over the years, and so I think it's time to get back to the basics and trying to make ourselves more efficient and save money.
And time's up.
I have one.
Time's up.
All right. Thank you.
Time's up. Kimberly, 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time this evening to be here. This is incredible to me because this is what community is, and this is engagement, and it's something I'm very, very passionate about. So thank you. My name is Kimberly Calderbank. I'm a lifelong resident of Burlington and the owner of a marketing firm on Grant Street. I'm passionate about the well-being of our community, and I have the experience to back that up. For almost a decade, I was the sponsorship manager for Sound of Music Festival, helping to raise $500,000 each year to support our festival. I worked in marketing and communications for the Joseph Brant Hospital Foundation as part of the Capital Campaign, and I'm now part of the hospital's Young Professional Network. I also was the marketing and event coordinator for the Downtown Business Association, and I'm currently a member of the BBVA. I've earned a seat on the Crime Stoppers board for 2 years. I'm responsible for the Candlelit Stroll and the Treats in Our Streets revamp. As a local business owner, I'm a member of the Burlington Chamber of Commerce. I'm sharing this experience with you because real, relevant community leadership matters. I've spent more than the last decade of my life working here, not in another city, working in an unrelated field. Here, working every single day in our community to make it stronger, supporting our hospital, championing local businesses, bringing vibrancy to our downtown, making our streets safer. This election is about you. I'm running for council because you deserve a councillor who can work collaboratively and effectively. I wasn't asked to serve, I want to serve. Being alone dissenting vote time and again, not being able to sway others, doesn't get us the results we need at council. I can do better than that for you. When out of the doors, residents tell me they're not opposed to growth and it needs to be reasonable. I hear your frustrations, I live your frustrations. We have the opportunity for productive conversation this evening. I hope we can engage in that way, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Kimberly. Walter, 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Walter Weed. Thank you for coming tonight. Well, it's time for someone to act. Accountable, candid, transparency. That's what you're going to get with me. I have over 20 years of international business experience. We need someone on council with a real business background to understand the complexities of our budgets and run the city like it is, a big business. I will work in unison with council and the developers to collaborate on responsible intensification. I will not get out negotiated at the bargaining table like our current council has. I will be fair but tough on developers. I have not and will not enter into any exclusive agreement with developers for placement of election signs. I have not and will not align myself with any mayoral candidate. I'm 100% self-financed. I'm in no one's back pocket. Did you know that Burlington councillors get paid $20,000 more compared to a similar sized city to ours? I pledge tonight to take a 20% pay cut and donate 25% of my first year's salary to local charities. I will keep your taxes in line with inflation, not above it. I will advocate for a transportation plan that makes sense for the increased density that is on our doorstep. I will fight for affordable housing to keep our families together. Developers pay a park dedication fee to the city for their project. Let's implement a parking and affordable housing fee. My way, we can all come and enjoy downtown and have a place to park. My way, our families can stay together. When you apply for a job, you must possess the minimum basic skill set and experience to get that job. I have decades of experience dealing with savvy, wealthy business people. I know how to ensure not to get taken advantage of. Fair but tough is how I will act. Accountable, candid, transparent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gerard Struda, and I too am running for councillor. I'm running a low-budget campaign, and no one is financing me as well. Burlington's a wonderful city and has been my home since 1991. However, time does not stand still, and we are facing tremendous challenges and change. Indeed, I believe that we are at a turning point in our development, and how we deal with these challenges will determine whether Burlington remains one of the best cities in Canada in which to live, work, and play, or we fall into mediocrity or worse. Some of the most pressing issues now challenging us are over-intensification, traffic and transit, taxes and spending, opportunities and growth of our local economy, maintaining our green spaces and waterfront access, among others. I believe that I possess the education, experience, and personal qualities that will enable me to make a positive contribution to the maintenance and continued development of Burlington as a great home for us and our children and our grandchildren. A master's degree in history has allowed me to develop the ability to research, analyze, and create solutions to problems and challenges, both immediately and in the long term. Experience as an educator and educational publishing has given me the opportunity to work in public and private sectors, unionized and non-unionized organizations, serve on the executive committee of the local teachers union, negotiate and enforce contracts. Personally, I can offer, among other qualities, what I call my IQ, or I quadrupled. Integrity, intelligence, imagination, and inclusivity. Qualities so necessary for a municipal council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll get to question number one. The cornerstone for any municipality is the official plan. Burlington passed the plan and sent it to Halton Region for approval. If you are elected councillor in Ward 2, is there anything in the official plan you would change? Lisa, 2 minutes.
You're right, Mark. The official plan is in fact the cornerstone of any municipality or any city. And in fact, it's the one safety net that we do have to create a city that's ours. There were some misses in the current official plan, and as the person at this stage with an unparalleled expertise in that 900+ page official plan, I am very much aware of what needs to change. And it's not so much about what needs to change, it's about how we can affect that change. And so since the official plan was adopted in April, it now goes to the region for approval. And it's a place where there's a lot of anxiety within our community and what can we do and what couldn't we do. And so proactively, more proactively than starting working on this in November of 2017, more proactively now I've consulted with official land use planners as well as municipal land use lawyers so that I can figure out in advance what I could do in terms of my powers as a councillor. And what's amazing is that a councillor can't do anything on their own. They can only do it with some help. And so I've been reaching out to other council candidates across the Halton region region to ensure that when this official plan gets to the region, that I have the support by bringing the voice of many residents of Burlington forward on the changes that they'd like to see. And so I'll bring that motion forward to set out our reduced heights and densities, especially up the Brant corridor, the spine of our city, the heart of our city. I'll advocate for the revisions in the official plan that includes the neighborhood studies and the official plan peer review that we had asked for. And most importantly, I think I can do this effectively because I know the areas that are mistakes. We know how the precinct plan has put pressure on our downtown core. We also know how employment land in Section 5 has been locked up, especially at 901 Guelph Line, and is not providing opportunities for housing affordability or employment. And so I'll bring those changes forward and get them done with that collaborative effort from other councillors across the region. And that's what we need to do to make the change to reflect an official plan that's Burlington's.
Thank you. If any of the candidates would like the question re-put, I'd be glad to do that. And you do have 2 minutes, but you don't necessarily have to take 2 minutes. But talking to 6 politicians up here, I don't think you're going to have less than 2 minutes. Okay, Roland.
Okay, so I think the question was basically to summarize what would I change about the official plan. I think that's right, if that's the summary. And you know, obviously there are a lot of things that need to be changed. But I want to talk, first we need to revise the heights because the new official plan is basically an attempt to appease developers. So it's kind of a Neville Chamberlain white document that's being waived by council at the moment. And the very first time that it came to council with a new development, what happened? It was immediately appealed. So really, it doesn't matter what official plan we have, it's still going to be appealed. So how are we going to fix that? Well, ultimately the problem is not the official plan. It's the start of the problem is the urban growth centre in Burlington. And on top of that, the designation of mobility hubs. So the urban growth centre was put in place in about 2007. And it's that which designates downtown as somewhere that is marked for intensification. So that means that developers come and they say, you've got an urban growth centre here, we're allowed to build. And that gives them everything that they need to then go ahead. So we need to look at how we can address that, because Oakville didn't put their urban growth centre on downtown. Oakville said, no thanks, we want ours on our midtown, we want it near transit. So we need to look at that, and then we need to look at the mobility hubs, because Burlington has more mobility hubs within half a mile of this church than the whole of Hamilton, believe it or not. So why is Ward 2 facing so many mobility hubs? Those are things that we can ask the province to remove. It's not in the legislation. So the official plan is part of it. It's not the whole story. It's not even the big part of the story, I don't think. It's what happened over the last 10 years. And how we need to fix all those things to have the weight behind us to do what you want to see in the city.
Michael.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to. Is this on? Sorry. Can you hear me? No, I don't think so. All right.
Yeah, turn it on.
All right. All right, let's try this again. There we go. So I'd like to reiterate some of Roland's points about mobility hubs being in this area. We have to redesignate them and get them out of this area. But let's back it up again further. The official plan by the city is a book that's been written that we never stick to. We should go to the root of the problem, where we have city staff, city managers that continue to press their vision of Burlington on us, whereas we have our vision, we're the city, we're the community that makes up this city. So we need to look at the hiring practices of the people that are designing and pushing our city in a direction we no longer want to be or no longer want to go in. So let's start looking at the root of the problem, and then we have a good opportunity with some new council members to start working collaboratively together to start shaping the Burlington the way it should be, and keeping the intensification and building heights to a standard that we can accept. When a corner at James and Martha says 4 to 6 stories, that's where it should be, because it's been in the plan, not at the 11th hour changing to 18 because an applicant wants it. So we have to work the official plan to be designed by the people, for the people, and forget about the developers, and force it back on the developers to shape the Burlington that we want.
First of all, I want to start off by saying I'm not a politician. I don't see myself ever being a politician. I consider myself a community advocate. I am a fierce community advocate, and I want to be an effective and collaborative advocate for you. This official plan took 6 years to get to. That's 6 years we had people researching and working on this plan. And what we need to take into consideration is if this does go to the region and say there are amendments suggested, or say we scrap the whole thing and start again, then what? Then we don't have a plan. Then we have builders coming to us looking to put high-rises up on our streets and no plan. We can't stop them then because our plan goes to the province. So what I want people to understand is without a plan, the plan moves to the province. And right now, the province is check, that matches our intensification. That's what we need, off you go. We lose our control. So are there amendments needed? Potentially, yes. Are there small things, adjustments we can make? Sure. But do we completely need to scrap or redo the entire official plan? No, because that will be a big loss for us as a community. Furthermore, the official plan is 900 pages, as Lisa mentioned, and there's more than just height and width. There's a fabulous transit plan for us. There's lots of really great things that are part of this official plan, and I think we have to stand behind this official plan that was well done and well put together. Again, there might be some amendments, but at the end of the day, we are better off with a plan in place than we are without one. Again, being effective and collaborative with this plan, and we need to, once it is in place, stick to it. That plan was put there for a reason. Those height restrictions are there for a reason. We need to adhere to them, and we need somebody to make sure that is done. And I'm going to be that person to adhere to the official plan. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, there's a statement my dad would always make. He goes, common sense. And sometimes it's not so common. And firstly, I think personally that this decision about the official plan should have been left to the new council that's going to be coming on board. There's 3 new ward members going to be coming on to council in December. That's a large percentage of the total number of councillors within Burlington. I think we need to fully define what the mid-rise and the high-rise plan really looks like. You're right, we do have a plan, it's in place, but the question was, what changes would I make? That would be one. And I think we need to vigorously renegotiate any variances that developers are taking forth to LPAT. We are not negotiating strongly and in an effective manner against these developers. If they want something, if they want 10 more stories, great. We should ask for something in return. We want a 10-story parking garage right next door. If we don't ask, we're not going to get it. And we can't sit back passively and let things just happen. And that's why I'm running. I'm effectively engaged. I'm upset with what's happening to our great city. I want to advocate for change, and I think what we can do is effectively look at the core issues and let's redevelop them and let's find a way that we can make things work. Thank you very much.
Gerard.
Well, what would I change about the official plan? Well, I certainly would look at the intensification clauses very much and the height objectives. Burlington is not Manhattan, and although it's ironic that municipal governments, which have the most direct influence upon people's everyday lives, have the least amount of power compared to other levels of government. So we must use our powers of persuasion and our building alliances to work for the citizens of this city so that things like over-intensification or unintelligent or intensification are ameliorated or modified through working with the province and other stakeholders. As for the developers, in my time in business, I found that when you deal with business persons, if they can win a little, they will work with you. If you stand up to them and stand up for your rights, they will work with you because they want to make money. If you bend over for them, they'll run right over you. But if you work with them strongly, they'll work with you. I don't have all the answers right now for the plan, but we must move with and continually work with the province to revise our plan and revise the Places to Grow Act so that we're not being railroaded down a path that we don't want to go. That's all I will say.
To the candidates, apparently there's having some difficulty hearing people around that corner, so maybe you can just move a little closer to the microphone and then we can rectify that situation. I certainly hope we get through a lot of these questions that you've submitted. However, unless we're going to be here till midnight, I doubt it. So I'll get on to question number 2, and this is for Roland to answer first. Burlington has been growing. Do you believe this can be stopped? If yes, how will you stop it? If no, what major downtown infrastructure changes will be necessary to accommodate growth over the next 30 years?
It's working. Okay, so I'll try to speak really loudly. So can we stop Burlington growing? No, because that's a provincially mandated change. So every city in the province is mandated to grow. We can't put up a wall. We all know about walls, and I don't think that's a good idea. So we have to have more people. So it's a matter of where we put them. We can have some more people downtown, but we can also have more people at the other mobility hubs. So we don't have to ruin downtown while we're having more people move to our city. We can keep a charming downtown. We can also put into place the infrastructure that we need to have a modern city that can get around with a choice of transport. So the big infrastructure thing that I would mention is a decent transit system. We need to have Burlington Transit, frankly, is one of the weakest transit systems in the province, and I say that I don't mean to criticize anybody who works for it. They do a great job, but they haven't had the investment for 20 years. The city of our size should have something like 4 million rides a year minimum. We have under 2 million at the moment. And that's not just because we're a city of wealthy people who all want to drive. We have people who would love to take the bus, but can't. It's about giving choices to people. So we can really help the growing pains by putting the money into the infrastructure that's going to help us not clog the roads and to keep our city still kind of charming and quaint downtown while we're adding people. And I think that's the balanced approach that we need. And I think that would achieve what everybody wants to see without gridlock while we grow. Thanks.
What you'll find with me, I'm going to have shorter, more concise answers because I am not a politician either. So, being in business, maybe at the end of October I will be. But having said that, we need to right-size Burlington. When it comes to downtowns, seeing what we said back when we Save Our Waterfront, we don't want the big buildings at the lake, which we have now. We don't want the big buildings lining Brand Street. Every city, community around wants a quaint downtown. That's why people go to Niagara on the Lake. People come to Burlington to see more history. They don't come to see buildings. So even though I'll be sad to see Holland Park go, development up in the major corridors is where we should further develop and right-size it downtown. So when you go to the east side of Toronto, you see taller buildings along the highway accesses. So closer to the highways, have the higher intensity, to Roland's point again, transit to support that, so you get to the GO stations and access to the GO stations to get in and out of our city, and pull the traffic away from the downtown core. And that's would go along with working with the province to do some improvements on the highways to pull the traffic out of the downtown. So there's number of things that we need to do, but when it comes to intensification, pull it away from the downtown, and there are some buildings that do need improvement, so keep it right-sized for our core.
I think what's important to note about growth is some growth statistics for us here. So in 2006, our population here was 162,000 and a bit. In 2011, our population was 175 and a bit. And in 2016, our population was 183 and a bit. So basically what that means is every 5 years, we've been adding approximately 10,000 residents to Burlington overall. Population growth from 2011 to 2016 is 4.3%, which was lower than the provincial growth of 4.6. So although we are growing, our growth is not out of control, which I think sometimes is what the perceived indication is. In order to keep our taxes in place, in order to invest in new infrastructure, we do need to grow. And like I said at the beginning, we need to grow reasonably and responsibly in order for us to be able to invest in those things. Our infrastructure is well behind. I believe that we're a bit of a reactive city, and I'd like to be a proactive city. That's why that official plan is meant to be in place, is so that we can proactively plan for our futures. This isn't just the downtown, the Ward 2, and the city, Burlington now. We're planning our city for the future. This is where my children are going to grow up. This is the downtown that I want them to love as much as I do. You know, we have new things that we've invested in, our light synchronization system. We've invested in our transit. One of the first jobs this council will have is on the table is actually to approve our transit system. It's a 5-year investment with a quick 15-minute service along all of our major routes, which I think is an incredible opportunity for us to really use that transit system. There's empty buses right now. We have an opportunity to really engage in our transit. I don't even know how to ride the transit properly. It is difficult to do. We have some work to do, and again, I want to be the one that does that work for us. Thank you.
Repeat a bit of the question for you. Do you believe growth can be stopped? And if yes, how will you stop it? If no, what major downtown infrastructure changes will be necessary to accommodate growth that over the next 30 years?
Well, Mark, it's really tough to stop growth that's been provincially mandated. So that's like trying to stop a runaway train. But I think there's things that we need to do, and I think you know, my worthy opponents up on the table this evening have already come up with a couple of great ideas. You know, for example, traffic light synchronization. I'm all in favor of free transit for seniors. They're empty buses anyway, so let's put them to use. Let's get people moving around. Let's get cars out of the way. Roundabouts in many areas. We don't have that. I just came back recently from a trip in Europe, bringing my daughter to school. There's nothing but roundabouts. There is no traffic congestion. Everyone knows how to operate and mandate themselves on a roundabout. So instead of putting in new systems, let's look at roundabouts. Let's look at road widening where applicable. Let's look at going to the province for the QEW on various interchanges. We need support. The QEW and the 403 hop-on, hop-off scenarios that's happening in our neighborhood, we've been told that it's upwards of 30% of the traffic that comes inside Burlington because they can rate it by the GPS coordinates and by Bluetooth coordinates in people's car where they live. And they're all going to Hamilton, Stony Creek, St. Catharines. They don't even live here. So we need to reduce speed limits in certain areas, and again, eliminating a lot of unnecessary work for everyone who's trying to do a great job here. So thank you very much.
As for the question, can we stop this growth? No, we cannot be like King Canute standing at the beach and trying to stop the waves. It won't work, but we can manage it better. Like my colleague here, I was in Europe this summer and in Paris, among other cities. They have beautiful 6-story buildings, mixed-use buildings. Well, why can't we transform the downtown in a managed way into something like that? Because frankly, part of the downtown is looking a little tired, and we could improve it. I envisage from the Lake Shore to Fairview, Brant Street, Guelph Line, Walker's Line, as being redeveloped on an idea like Paris. Beautiful, mixed-use buildings. More development along, of course, the GO train line would make sense, and development that emphasizes not building of monster homes, but homes that could be subdivided, or affordable housing, lower height apartment buildings, buildings that are designed for seniors. There's all sorts of ways we can attack this problem, but we are not going to stop change. Our job is to manage it so that we're in charge, not someone else. Thank you.
Lisa? No, that's still not. Oh, there we are.
So the question of do we grow or not grow over the next 30 years sounds a lot like one of the dismal two choices that were often given by City Hall. And I think it's time to start changing that dialogue. So I'm on record at the Hamilton Spectator back in April saying that we need a complete plan, and we need it before this official plan is voted into law. And so one of the things that's part of a complete plan is a transit, transportation, and mobility hub plan. And all of those are pieces of infrastructure that haven't been accounted for as the intensification has come forward. And so I've asked for those to come, and what the city has said, and many times during the official plan delegations, is that, is this plan defensible? Is this plan defensible? And my response is this plan accountable? Is it accountable to the people in this room who use the infrastructure? Is it accountable to the people in this room who try to get around our city, to the places we enjoy? And the answer continues to be no. And those are the places where I want to make changes so that our infrastructure will keep track with our intensification. One of the ways that we can do that is to look to our community, as one of the first tasks of this new council will be to do the budget, probably in November, December, January. And we'll ask you, can we put that 1% Joe Brandt levy that's already been baked into your taxes over to the infrastructure that we need? And when we open up that kind of dialogue, we can reinvest in the transit infrastructure that we need. We also need wastewater planning. We need to bury the hydro lines once, not twice, when Burlington James goes under construction. And we need to deliver to you a second senior center, and so we need to start planning for that now in another place within the city. We also need to invest in our transit, because we're looking for a 5% operational year-over-year investment, and that's going to hopefully reroute, so you can get a straight shot down Brant Street, you can get into Mapleview Mall again, and then you can also even have a seniors pilot on Sundays or Mondays so you can connect with Oakville. So what I want to do is use that investment so we can have the infrastructure that matches the growth, not completely stopping it.
Thank you, Lisa. And we'll move on to the third question, and this one is for Michael to answer first. The word over-intensification has been used by many candidates in this election. Many go on to say, quote, they support growth, unquote. Can you be more specific in what you are able to accomplish, seeing the Ontario Municipal Board / LPAT has approved many buildings already in Ward 2?
That's a fun one to start with. So basically, the ones that are voted, already passed, are unfortunately done. There's not much we can do to pull them back. But going forward, if we have the right council working together, we can at least vote no and put the first front lines there to say, no, we don't want to go any further, and expect when something is 4 to 8 stories, that is what we want. We don't want 18 stories. An applicant that puts in an 18-story, if they want to go and challenge us, then we will put up the fight to challenge them at least. Right now, we're just rolling over. First, let's put the fight in to say no. Let's work with the new councillors to say no. We've had a great advocate, Marianne, here to say no against the over-intensification. Let's carry on with her fight, and then let's work with the new councillors to put our feet in and work as a community against the It doesn't have to be against the developers, but get the developers to see the vision that we have for us. Thank you.
I think that our new plan allows us to be well thought out and well planned out. And as I mentioned, I think that without that plan, we put ourselves in a really risky opportunity to have over-intensification. Intensification is a word that I've tried to drop from my vocabulary at all points because I don't think that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about height. We're talking about height as being the main concern, and that's what we're looking at as the intensification. I think that one of the things that I'm trying to do differently as a councillor, whether or not that's a popular choice or not, is to be collaborative with the builders. I think it's important for us to have open communication and conversation. I took it upon myself when I decided to take on this role to sit down and to meet with every builder, every application that is in our ward right now, because I want to be able to have a face-to-face conversation with them. I want to understand what their thoughts are. I want to understand how things got out of control in the first place. That property was meant to be 11 stories. It's now 23. That's double. That's a big deal. And how did that happen? And so I want to be able to have those conversations. I truly believe that we can achieve so much more when we work together, and I feel as though we can stop that development and we can work together to create the development that's reasonable and responsible that our community deserves. And furthermore, to truly get what we deserve out of that development. Section 37 is an excellent example of benefits that we can put back into our community that we need to really be putting our foot down, and it needs to be well planned out. Something that's news to me is that we don't actually have a list of community wishes. We haven't been out to the community and said, hey, what kind of benefits do we need as a community to go back into this growth? So that's something that I want to make sure we do and do right. Proactive versus reactive. Very important for this next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Well, it's all about responsible intensification in my mind. You know what, the setbacks from the streets. What about the base of the towers? Are we going to have this large kind of Fifth Avenue, New York style Brant Street? Obviously, no, that's not what we want. So I think that it's in working in conjunction with the developers and with city planners on what these developments really are going to look like. And how did that happen? As Kimberly said, well, it happened because we didn't negotiate well with these developers right out of the gate. And that's the real crux of the problem. When we get these presentations in front of us, there isn't even any community engagement. Well, why don't, at the same time it's being presented to council, why can't it be presented to the residents of Burlington? There's no reason why not. There's social media platforms. There's other types of platforms where we can have state of the ward type events, quarterly state of the ward events where you can come to City Hall and find out what's happening. Or state of the wards at our seniors' homes, where we come to the 20% who can't come to us. I think that's what's important, because seniors in this room, they're actively engaged. Let's take a look around in this whole room. Some of you are able to get here tonight. There's many of you who couldn't be able to get here tonight. And if we're able to come to you and present what's going on and get your feedback, there's a lot of knowledge in this room and we need to take advantage of it. That's where I stand, and thank you very much.
Gerard.
Well, as I said before, municipal governments have very little power relative to provincial or federal governments. So the trick is to use your persuasive powers and to understand what motivates the people you're dealing with, be they developers or the provincial government. Developers want to make money. They don't make money by alienating your potential customers or your community. You make money by working with that community to meet their needs. We, as a government, can offer them varied incentives to make it better for them to modify their plans. As Walter said, we should get the citizens involved immediately at the front end, not at the back end when things are 3/4 of the way down the road. As for the provincial government, working with other municipalities, we should be always pushing the provincial government to realize that as politicians, they might want to get re-elected. And they won't get re-elected if they're alienating large chunks of people. So use the power that we have, which is soft power, not this blunt force. Thank you.
The word over-intensification has been used by many candidates in this election. Many go on to say, quote, they support growth, unquote. Can you be more specific in what you're able to accomplish, seeing the Ontario Municipal Board / LPAT has approved many buildings in Ward 2?
In delegation, the mayor asked me to define over-intensification, and my answer to Mayor Goldring was, over-intensification is when we leapfrog our permissions. So when we go from 2 to 4, to 4 to 8, to 8 to 12, to 16 to 24, that to me is a leapfrog. When we jam in high density where low density belongs, we've leapfrogged midpoint density. That's what over-intensification is. And at the bottom of it, it means that it's just not compatible. And when it's not compatible, it feels uncomfortable. And when it feels uncomfortable, it pulls at our community. And when our community is pulled at, we bind together. And when we bind together, we go to the LPAT. And you know what happens at the LPAT? The developers scare us into pulling our application. And so I know more about the LPAT than any candidate at this table, if not any person in this room, and maybe my dad does too. And what I have found is that we've lost control. And we've lost control because we took our eye off the ball. We got comfy, we got cozy, and we lost control. And now we're in a position of over-intensification, and we're in a knee-jerk reaction, and we're trying to pull it back together. And that's why we have 63 candidates running, a record number. That's why we have a record number of delegations to the official plan. And that's why we have a community that's uncomfortable and is looking to get back to that quality of life that we feel has been threatened by over-intensification. And so it's not just a developers versus us, it's where is our quality of life and what has happened and how are we going to bring it back? And we're going to bring it back by working together as a community, by electing officials that have the residents' voice as their first priority, and we're going to do that in a way that we've collaborated and we've worked together and we've joined in a shared vision under a leader that's inspired us. That's over-intensification, and that's how we fix it.
Okay, so just quickly, just gently challenge Lisa's assertion that she knows more about these things than anybody else. I was actually involved in the process that reformed the OMB. As a citizen, I was involved. There was a consultation process, and I took part in that. And I spoke to the minister in charge of that change, as because the government at the time recognised that the OMB was far too much in the hands of developers. Now we have the LPAT. The LPAT is technically different. How different it's going to be, we shall see. Nobody knows yet. But the intention of creating the LPAT was to put more power in the city's hands. So I want to make that clear in the first place, and to make official plans defendable. But we don't know yet if they're defendable or not, and we're going to have to wait and see. So, what would I do? What is over-intensification, and what would I do specifically? Well, once again, over-intensification really is something that's out of line with what residents see as their community. People in Burlington have a very clear vision for downtown, extremely clear, and a very clear vision in other parts of town too, but particularly downtown. Over-intensification is really anything that goes beyond that. And it's not NIMBYism, and it's not against change. It's recognizing that we have something so special downtown that most cities in Ontario do not have. In fact, we're the only one, and we need to look after that. So what would I do? I would look at the urban growth centre again. It's not just the official plan, it's the urban growth centre, it's the mobility hubs. Those things give tools to developers to do what they want and to override the official plans. Until we get those things out, any official plan we have, it's going to be struggling. It's a negotiating starting point and not an ending point, and that's the entire problem we've had for the last 10 years. So we need to look at those things, and we need to work with the province to do it, and I hope I'll be the one who will be able to do that. Thanks.
I'm going to give Lisa 30 seconds to respond.
Thanks. I think I just need 10. LPAT's now, OMB was 10 years ago.
Okay, this question we will start with Kimberly. And we're going to take a break from high rises and so on. Just at least for a moment. Do you think Burlington should opt out of having cannabis dispensaries?
Awesome that I'm going first here.
It's okay, you turn to pee pong.
Yeah. This is obviously a very hot button topic with a lot of people, and something that I often get asked, which I was surprised, but I guess not so much anymore. I think we need to, as much as I believe in medicinal pot and that there are people that do require this for certain ailments, and I see the value in it. As a mother, I have a problem with people smoking up and down my streets, especially I just have this vision, and that is not a vision I want for our downtown. So I don't think that we know enough yet. This is so new. I think that I'm online and on board with what Oakville would like to do, and opt out for now, check it out, figure out what's happening, and then we have the opportunity to come back in. This is big. It's going to literally change things on a day-to-day basis for everybody. There was smoking bylaws years ago, and I truly feel like there's not enough information at this point to make the ultimate decision on this yet. And I'll be really interested to see where this goes. But currently, I think that we need to model after our neighbors. Our current mayor has also suggested that, and I am on board with that. I think that's where we need to be right now. Thank you.
Well, that's a very interesting question. If you watch the stock market, the Canada stocks are doing very, very well. Interesting to watch, and I guess it's going to be very interesting to see in a few short weeks on the 17th when we go online, and then in April when it's going to become legal at street level. To answer the question, I'm in favor of it, and I'll tell you why. My mother-in-law uses medicinal marijuana. She needs it for her ailments. She's never been more healthy in the last 10 years than she has by taking advantage of what's available to her. You know, a little bit of oil on her salad dressing at dinner time, and she's good to go. So, all wonderful things, and you know what? Anything to take some of that pain and discomfort away. I think is a wonderful thing. I'm also in favor for it because I think what it's definitely going to do is eliminate some of that underground trade that's going on. And if we can minimize, I don't know if we'll totally eliminate it, but at least by minimizing it, I think that's a positive thing. And some of the tax dollars that can be generated from the retail can come back into the community, and it could be designed, let's say, for specific uses where people are in an addiction scenario. So I think there are a number of positives more than the it's you know, it's cannabis. We you know, we need to think differently about that. So I mean, we legalized spirits and wine a number of years ago, and we all turned out okay. So I think we'll be okay at the end of the day. Thank you.
If you had asked me this question like 25 years ago, I would have said full speed ahead, let's get everyone But I'm a little worried about the way it's being rolled out, and although I want people who need medical marijuana to be able to access it, I'm a little worried about how readily available it is. And will be, and how people will be permitted to walk down the street smoking. Walter mentioned alcohol, but you can have a glass of wine and you're not going to get drunk. You smoke a joint, you're going to get stoned. the whole purpose of smoking a joint, unless you're doing it for medicinal reasons, is to get stoned. So I'm not sure, I'm a little worried about it. So I would be in favor of opting out and see how it rolls out. And then maybe the provincial government will modify a few things. I'd like personally to see it sold in liquor stores and dispensed in pharmacies. I find it kind of hypocritical that all these people are jumping on the bandwagon because they see an opportunity to make $1 million selling pot to anybody in the city. I like to think I'm a pretty liberal person, but this worries me a little bit. Anyway, so I prefer to opt out for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you think Burlington should opt out of having cannabis dispensaries? Lisa?
So I know some of you are concerned about this, as am I, but the decision to opt out, I think, is not the right decision. Delaying the inevitable while we look to other cities to create their best practices and what works for them is another example where Burlington could be lagging behind. This is a made in Burlington solution, and we can do that because we should be taking the lead on how we're going to use the tax dollars that will come from that. 40% of the excise tax will come into our revenues, and then it can go up to 50% after we hit a draw with the province. This is unlocking a big amount of money that we can use to fund the infrastructure and the transit and the things that are also important to you. But we can also put a tremendous amount of controls, and so that's where we do have an opportunity to limit access. And so we can put the controls in place around keeping it away from schools and parks and community centers, even off our streets. We can use some of that money to use bylaw enforcement to enforce our no smoking policies, which if you walk up and down Spencer Smith, you sometimes can see that they're not really enforced. It's sort of a goodwill enforcement. I also want to note that we are at the helm of both the federal and the provincial governments, and so while opting out is an option at this time, it will be an inevitable, and I think we can get ahead of that and make our own solution with the right amount of engagement. And I also want to talk about the $40 million that the province has committed to take care of us while we move through this transition process. And so there is money there to help us with our policing as we figure out what we're going to do with this new type of product that's available in a retail setting across Ontario. Thanks.
We knew that it was going to be very strictly controlled, more strictly controlled than alcohol. And now we're going to a situation where it's really easier to get hold of than than alcohol in some ways, and you can smoke it in public. We can't drink on a brown street, so these are things that we need to think about. I was speaking to a lady the other day who's a cancer survivor, and she was already talking about spending a day on Burlington Beach, which was kind of ruined by the number of people smoking pot already. Well, it's already illegal. It's currently still illegal. We need people to sort of enforce the rules that are there. As to the retail, I think I will vote in favour if I can be 100% sure at the end of January that we can control the zoning, where the stores go, the number of stores, you can access the stores, and we know that it's completely safe and completely controlled. If that's not the case, if that's not a guarantee that I'm sure of, by January the 22nd, I believe is the date we're going to have to decide by, then I would vote against it on a temporary basis on the assumption that probably within a year or so we'll be able to go ahead. As Lisa mentioned, there's money involved, and why shouldn't we benefit from that? So that's certainly going to be a permanent stoppage, but I do think we just need to, in the current situation where everything's changing so rapidly, be absolutely sure that we're doing the right thing.
So as a father, I was originally against the legalization of marijuana, but as it has been passed now, I do see the benefits of it, that it is now going to be a regulated product, that now that the issues of marijuana and fentanyl and overdoses, it's now going to actually be regulated. So I would be in favor of, I'd be opting in, because it is a controlled product now. There would have to be strict regulations in place as it's not near schools, and there would be a regulating body to make sure that it's sold appropriately to the right ages. It is as a medicinal product, so there's a lot of people that benefit from it. Even my 17-year-old dog gets the same drops with his aches and pains, and he still acts like a puppy. So, I was on Burlington Beach as well, and we had a family day, and a couple was smoking next to us as well, and it wasn't good for the families that were trying to enjoy the day. So that enforcement piece needs to come in, and with the money that we would be earning from it, that we could at least start enforcing different initiatives to make sure that it is kept to people's residence, and then we can also use that money to benefit some of our other social programs that we need in the city. So I think the benefits, there will be some pains along the way, unfortunately, but I think as long as we're proactive in advance getting the community input, we can head them off in the front. So, thank you.
Okay, this question goes to Walter first to respond to. My daughter and her family left Burlington due to the high cost of housing. What affordable housing initiatives do you propose for Ward 2?
Well, affordable housing in the region is really at a critical stage at the moment, and it is terribly unfortunate that that our children, that they may be in their early 20s, just starting out their careers. Unfortunately, the city of Burlington is out of their snack bracket in most instances, unless they have got a very well-to-do parent that is willing to help them out. But I think we can do a number of things, and by imposing an affordable housing fee similar to the park dedication fees that the developers have for these new projects will be one way that we could help generate some affordable housing applications. Additionally, with some of the new projects that are being built within the community, we should designate and negotiate in a percentage of the building needs to be deemed affordable. It can't all be $2 million penthouse condos overlooking the water. There has to be a little bit of give and take here. So, we'll give you, Mr. Developer, those 10 penthouses that you can charge $2.5 or $3 million. But in return, we need some retail at street level, and we need some affordable housing, because we can't attract business into Burlington unless we have a transit system, unless we have an affordable housing system to allow people to work and live in Burlington. So, from that perspective, I'm a big proponent of that, and I would definitely look at finding ways that we could impose fees on and levies on the developers. Thank you.
Well, Walter, you sound like I'm going to sound. I think we should persuade the developers to build a certain percentage of low cost housing or affordable housing when they build an engagement project, or they should be hit with a fee which we could put into a regional fund so that we could use that money to create more housing that is affordable. It's a tough situation in this part of the world because there's fewer and fewer spots, but I agree with Walter that we don't need developers building $2 million homes all the time. There are lots of people who can't afford that, as you're probably aware. So we need a mix of housing options, and we need certainly a certain percentage that are affordable. Thank you.
So we know that housing affordability is at a breaking point in Halton, with nearly 10% of our population not able to afford a home. And to create inclusive communities and advocate for a better mix of family and assisted units, we need to address, learn, coordinate, and create a Burlington for everyone. The deficit between income and the cost to responsibly own a home is now polarizing. We need to learn what works through strategic partnerships like Habitat for Humanity and Halted Housing, and from there we can then scale out. We know that simply increasing housing supply through intensification and height does not deliver on the vibrancy and inclusion. And together we can walk the walk on No Neighbor in Need. We can champion a smart supply of focused housing strategies with our regional tools and our inclusionary zoning that came through from the province in April. And we can create new communities that opens up land that was locked up in the official plan and that would be left unused for many years. The example that I've advocated for is at 901 Guelph Line, which would create a complete community. It's currently where the target liquidation is and the liquidation stuff. There's a development proposal that's been moved through for many years now, and it would in fact create a dynamic mix of nearly 50 to 75 housing units just completely handed over to Habitat for Humanity. It would use the best sustainable development materials, and it's only 400 meters outside of the Fairview Mobility Hub, and it's walking distance to the new Denningers to get food, and it's also near the $60 million investment in Burlington Center. That to me is a complete community that can help address our housing needs, and it's been missed in the official plan, and I would look to open that up. And I know that we can walk the talk on No Neighbor in Need if we get a little smarter about how we plan our communities.
The key word here is inclusionary zoning, which is one of those phrases that doesn't sound very exciting, but is really important. And this is a new thing there's a new tool that municipalities now have. And what inclusionary zoning means is that we can go to developers and say, we insist on a percentage of your units being affordable. And more than that, we insist on them being affordable long term. So you can't just sell the unit immediately at 80% at a discounted rate and then sell it the next week full price. It's got to stay affordable. And we need to, in the current Toronto election, they're talking about 100,000 affordable housing. So on that basis, we need in Burlington something like 8,000 to 10,000 affordable units built. So we need to be setting hard targets on that. We need to be using affordable inclusionary zoning. I also want to look at cooperative housing. I love housing co-ops. That was a fantastic idea that was popular in the 60s, 70s, 80s, went out of fashion in the 90s when budgets were being cut back. But it's really a fantastic way of giving high quality housing to people of all income groups, and also mixing income groups so that we're not just putting people with everybody who has a particular income level in one place, but actually mixing people together. That's a great way, I believe, to create really healthy communities. We also need more subsidized housing in Hull. There's a waiting list. We need to put money into that as well. So there's a whole range of things that we can be doing that will fundamentally change this, and hard targets and inclusionary zoning are going to be the ways to go. Thanks.
All right. That affordability is an interesting one, because as I've been knocking on people's doors, it's been interesting to listen to people's responses about how they're excited to see the value of their homes increase. But on the other side, the kids that are living there can't afford to buy a place here. So growing up, I had two sets of grandparents, and one owned a home and one rented. And as I can attest, there's no shame in renting a home over the course of your life. People want to live here, and it's driving the prices up. There are just housing market value that we just can't control. But we can ask our developers and work with them to try and create some affordable housing within new developments. But another side, working with Halton Region, is creating incentives for landlords to do mixed housing on streets. I live on Holby Avenue, and we have affordable housing on our street, and it works. We get along great with all our neighbors and of all income levels. So we can work within our communities to build up our inventory of affordable housing with landlord incentives, but also protective rights for landlords, so that if things do go wrong, we can protect them and help them with any issues that they may have that comes with affordable housing. Also, seniors to continue the tax rebates to keep people in their homes longer so they're not forced to move, and work with the local social assistance programs to keep nurses knocking on doors and things like that to keep people in their homes longer. And then also try to assist with local, which I've done in the past, work with local social programs like the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club of Canada to try and assist these families as well, because with affordable housing, you also need the social services to support them along the way. Thank you.
So I think we have two affordable housing situations and two conversations that need to be had when it comes to affordable housing. I often share the story that being born and raised here, when I came back from university, I rented an apartment on Prospect. And from there, I moved into a townhouse and sort of made the natural progression. And now I live on Stevenson in a single detached house. But I have a lot of friends that haven't been able to follow along that same suit as I have. And I truly feel that if I didn't get into the housing market when I did, I don't think I'd be living here either. We live in an expensive city to live in, and that to me is one affordable issue. I talk to many residents who say, you know, my family grown up here, and now they all live in Hamilton, or they've had to move out into Niagara because they can afford a single detached house there, and that's sort of the dream for them. So that's one side of the affordable housing issue. I think the second, and something that I'm focusing on a lot in my priorities for our community, is the people that just purely can't afford to be here. We are to spend, or the average for people to spend on housing is 33% of their income. So when you think about poverty and you think about people that are spending 33% of their income, there are a lot of people that can't even afford to get themselves shelter, let alone housing in Burlington. 13,500 children in Halton live in low-income houses. That's staggering to me, and that represents 1 in every 10 children in our community. And I think that's sort of a bigger issue here that we need to be talking about. Right now, there is no piece in the Halton strategic plan to include poverty as part of the plan. And I think that's huge and very telling of the community we're in, and I think we need to wise up a little bit to our other members, seniors and young families and vulnerable people that really need our assistance to be able to afford to live here. Inclusionary zoning is a great opportunity as well, and that's why this relationship with developers is so important, because with that relationship we can really work together to ensure that everybody is able to afford a place to live, no matter what way we're looking at the affordability spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you. This is for Gerard to answer first. Burlington residential taxes have risen 4.3% last year alone. We're heading into a reassessment of residential properties by impact, and most properties will rise in value, and therefore municipal taxes will rise. What rate of increase or decrease for Burlington residential property tax is acceptable to you, and how will you ensure this rate is achieved?
Well, that's a really tough question. That's a really tough question, but the rate.
That's why we got it.
The rate I would be find acceptable is taxes should follow the rate of inflation. If inflation goes down, then taxes should go down somewhat. If inflation goes to 3%, then taxes should follow that. Taxes, I would look for efficiencies in our government and the way we do things in here to find savings. Perhaps much as Mr. Ford is looking for it as well. I would always view policy at the municipal level as always looking through the lens of value for money, so that we're not spending money unwisely. We're not wasting people's money. In a nutshell, the tax should be at the rate of inflation. Thank you.
Lisa.
So it would be wonderful to promise no changes to your taxes, but that's not actually a councillor's full control. The calculation of your taxes is through a variety of inputs, and some are regional and some are provincial. But at the end of the day, it's how does it feel? how we get the value out of the tax dollars that we have. And so we need to look at some of the tools or some of the decisions that are driving up the taxes and dampen those so that we can hold your taxes closer to the rate of inflation, or at least static for a year or two. And so many feel that while our city infrastructure has been underfunded and things are important to us, we need to look at councillors that can drive greater value out of the dollars that we have. And that's actually where my expertise comes into play. So I didn't share with you in the introduction because I didn't communicate at all with ECOG, so I didn't even know there was an introduction. And my background is actually in strategic procurement, and I've been doing that for nearly 20 years. And so the budgets that I work with are multifold of the cities. And so I can step into the budget that we're about to get, you know, in the winter and look through it and scrutinize every single line and ensure that any inefficient costing or spending is really scrutinized and pulled back out. And I can drive real value out of your tax dollars so that we can keep those increases low. The upward pressure on our taxes are also due, mostly in part, to land speculation. The price of a hectare of land in downtown is now approaching $8 million. That's where it's worth more to be land than to be a business or to be a home. And so when we start to dampen that land speculation, the same speculation that drives out into our communities and increases our home values, even though we don't want to leave Burlington, we need to dampen that and put that back into line with the reality and the real value of our homes so that our tax dollars can be spent equivocally with that. So it's not so much about the percentage up or down, it's keeping the controls that are driving it up in check, driving value.
Yeah, like everybody here, I'd love to promise you we could keep it at 0%. I'd love to promise you we can keep it at inflation. I think it'd be irresponsible for me to do so because we just don't know what the next 4 years is going to bring province-wide. We already know that that some big chunks of the money we get come from the province. The province is not going to be leaving its budget the same as it's been over the last 10 years. The province is going to be doing some big changes, and we've got to wait for the first provincial budget to find out what those are going to be. At that point, rather than me sitting here and telling you what I think, I want to speak to you. This is all what engagement is all about. We need to have a really mature discussion about what do you value more. Do you value more keeping your taxes low, as near to inflation as possible? Or do you value the services which are likely going to be threatened when our funding changes based on what's happening elsewhere in the province? So I'm not going to give you an answer on this, and I know it's a typical politician sidestep, but I'm trying to be honest. This is something that we will need to engage the city on to decide what is the best approach. Because what we do know, we've seen it already in Toronto, is that there is an agenda that it's going to be, there's an agenda which is going to want to see money cut from places. And the cities in the past have been one of the places that the province has been able to save money and to offload its burdens onto us. So that's something we're going to have to think about. That's the kind of elephant in the room, really, that no one's talking about at this election. And that's going to impact our taxes more than anything else. So I want to talk to you about that once we know the full picture. Thanks.
Michael.
All right, can you repeat the question, please?
I'm already on the next question here. What rate of increase or decrease for Burlington residential property tax is acceptable to you, and how will you ensure this rate is achieved?
All right, well, I've been pushing for on the top of my promotions is a tax freeze and working to reduce taxes. We all seem to fear that tax cuts means cuts in services as well. We've had a Liberal Party, once a part of that, has been big on spending and $15 billion in deficit at the provincial level. I work for a large corporation at Staples, and we have to shave every opportunity we can, and that's what I do at Staples. Every department has to come back with less more for less. That's what we do. Is, whether it's energy efficiency, I was able to save 40% in energy cost for the company across Canada just by basic lighting efficiency. So when it comes to, by pushing your staff to do more with less, sometimes you actually get better services. So it doesn't always, you don't always have to fear cuts and cuts. You can actually challenge our city managers, challenge our planners and staff to say, hey, what do we need this year? What do we need actually 5 years and 10 years? So we don't have to have everything every year. We've had some great initiatives with the Performing Arts Center, the Pier at times, the Joseph Brand Museum's coming. So we don't have to have huge capital expenditures every other year. So let's get back to the basics, make sure the services that we do provide are running smoothly, efficiently. We don't always have to be spending. Let's look at what we've got and let's start doing it right.
On the taxes, and this is a question that I get asked often, and I'm a young mother raising a young family, and I have my own business, and this is something that, you know, I want to talk about as well, and I'm glad that we've gotten a little bit away from the high intensification and we're talking other issues, because this is just as important. There was a period in Burlington where we did freeze taxes, and that is now referenced as the lost years. Because what happened is then we had to make up for it. We froze the taxes, and then we had to think about how we're going to make up for that. And I don't want to get into that type of situation again. We can't level our taxes without growth. Growth will allow us to start to level off our taxes. Tax cuts may mean cuts in services, and that's an issue that we need to be talking about as well. Our municipal taxes are actually lower than Oakville, Hamilton, and Mississauga, and yearly the increase, although, still hits us. One of the things, my website is kimberly.solutions, and I want to come to you with innovative solutions, different things that we can do. How can we work together to afford our taxes and be able to level things off? So here are some ideas. Let's look at a zero-based budgeting, and I'm not sure if you know what that means, but that means don't give people a budget. Go to each department and say, hey, tell me what it costs to run. Give me a budget now. Don't tell them how much we want to spend. And it would be interesting to see what they come back with, because who knows how much we could save right there alone. Consider multi-year budgeting instead of year-to-year budgeting. That might be able to alleviate some of our burden as well in our spending. And again, go to each department and ask them, where is the waste coming from? How can we work together? I think you made an excellent example, Mike, when you talked about lighting. There are ways that we can do this. We need to be coming up with innovative solutions, and that's what I'm all about. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think Kimberly makes a great point about waste. And here it is, 7.3%. 7.3%, what is that? That's the budget increase that was approved year over year for salaries and wages. We have buckets of money that are just not being effectively utilized. We can do both. The maximum that our taxes should be going up is the rate of inflation. And I respectfully disagree with some of my colleagues that we can't do both. We can give you the same level of services. We're just not doing our due diligence. And the world I come from, it's called a TDR. It's a tear down and review. And what you do, you peel back all the layers of the onion in that budgetary process, and you find inefficiencies. And that's how things need to work, because I would be in favor of a property tax freeze for qualified seniors, and you can settle your tax bill when you sell your home. Because something like that is going to keep seniors who are on a fixed income and don't have another 4% coming in, and they're already stretched to the limit, and they're right on the edge of a potential poverty line. Let's keep them in their home. Let's look at other alternatives to try and keep people in their home, and let's try and find a way to keep taxes to a bare minimum. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We'll go to Lisa first to respond to this question. It's a very simple one. There are a lot of questions referring to it. Traffic is a nightmare and will only get worse. What
broke it down to one car and I was on maternity leave, I used the bus all the time. And like I said in my earlier answer, we need a straight shot down Grant Street so that we can get from our downtown to our community center, Brant Hills and beyond. We need access into Mapleview Mall so that we can unlock employment opportunities for new people, as well as reduce isolation for our seniors for getting them in and out of the mall. We've heard about increasing technology solutions in terms of doing the signaling and doing the light synchronization. And I think what's most important about the traffic and the transit and the mobility hub is that we just don't have a plan. And so I'm not the right person to sit before you today and say, here's my plan. I've been looking for the plans. I've been looking for the plans for the better part of a year, and they're still forthcoming. And so what I'll look for in traffic, transit, and mobility hub is how we're going to be moving this new amount of people around. And so we've talked about looking at the applications as a whole and the way that they affect the entire community, not individuals' development applications, and only 200 trips in and out per day that would have no effect, and then the building beside that with another 2, and the building beside that with another 2, and then we have 0 impact in the traffic studies. So I would challenge that. If anyone follows me on social media, I had a very enjoyable afternoon in Hamilton, hopping on and off a Sobe bike. And so I think that we need to start looking at building in the cycle infrastructure that builds in the actual bikes as well as the bike lanes. And we can open up new ways for us to walk around our cities by planting bigger trees and making very friendly pedestrian walkways.
Yeah, how do we fix the roads? How do we fix the increased traffic that we're seeing? So I see 2 strands to this story. The first one is giving people transportation choices. At the moment we have one choice in Burlington 99% of the time, and that's to take a car. Despite the fact there are large numbers of people who don't drive, and there are large numbers of people who quite like to have alternatives. So we need to invest in transit. And we need to fill up the buses that we already have. Cities around Ontario have incredible success stories with transit. So this idea that there's nothing that will get people out of the cars just isn't true. Look at Kingston. They have 3.5 million rides per year 5 years ago, 3.5 million 5 years ago. That's now gone up to 7 million, over 7 million rides per year in 5 years. And did that by using express routes, and by doing a really incredible innovative scheme with the school boards to give free bus passes to students, to high school students. And then they've expanded that to include all children under high school age. And that's just been a phenomenal success. Brampton's seen the same thing. Brampton is adding 300,000 new rides to its buses every month. It's quite unbelievable. We need to be doing that too, rather than going backwards, which is what we're doing. That would get a huge number of people off our roads. But the second strand is a lot tougher, and that's the QEW. The QEW accounts, as I think someone already said, for about 30% of our peak time rush hour traffic. People who aren't coming to Burlington, people aren't going away from Burlington. It's just people who are using us as a way of avoiding the QEW. That's a huge problem. It needs to be negotiated with the province, it needs to be negotiated with the region. There must be a solution. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not even sure what it is right now, but we can't go on with this situation of being a cut through for the QEW. Okay, thank you.
Mike.
All right, since we're about engagement, just a show of hands, how many people took the bus here tonight? I was hoping for more, but 1. So I appreciate everybody's input on transit, and unfortunately, since I was a kid, they've been empty buses, big empty buses forever. The people who use it do need to use it, and I respect that entirely. But Burlington has a war on the car. They built all the new development on Plains Road, Fairview. We have. I drive from 410 in Courtney Park, and it takes me half an hour to get to Burlow, and then it takes me 40 minutes to get to Holtby Avenue. So I go mental trying to get home to see my family, and I actually commute to the end. My colleagues here, most of them probably live and work in Burlington, which is nice, if you can do it. If you're going to invest in transit, you have to look at it at a regional scale. I can't take a bus to work. It's going to take me 4 hours there, I'll work for half an hour and I'll come home. So let's get to reality. Let's look at our system. We've been doing the same system, Express, flipping it back and forth for years. Let's try and engage like places like Municipal. They've partnered with Uber, areas of the city that are less reliant on the transit. Let's send a car over, pick them up, or a van, something that's smaller, more efficient, and less costly. So transit does need investment. Let's look at a regional level with Hamilton and Oakville. Toronto has, if you want to change behavior, let's give free busing for kids under 12, like Toronto does, and then the next generation will see it as an opportunity to grow on. Whereas right now we rely on the car. Let's deal with the people. You're paying the taxes. Let's satisfy the people that are in this room. So I see the value in transit, but I also relate to all of us that sit and sit and sit with lights not synchronizing. So, sorry, I could rant on all day in traffic.
Well, your time's up, so you won't do that. Kimberly, I'll repeat the question. Traffic is a nightmare and will only get worse. What is your solution?
So congestion costs our regional economy billions of dollars every year. Light synchronization is key, and one of the points that I think we need to really focus on here. And it's interesting because only until recently did we even have the opportunity to synchronize our lights. This is new to us. I live just off Maple, and if something happens on QEW, heaven forbid, I cannot leave my subdivision. I'm not going anywhere, no time soon, and people are coming into my subdivision because they think it's cut through. And that's the majority of our traffic, as previously mentioned. Our traffic problems are due to rush hour cut through. 30% of that traffic are people that don't even live here, that don't work here. They're cutting through to get home faster, and that's causing us a lot of headache. The province has plans to widen QEW where the 403 and the 407 meet, which I think will help, and as again mentioned, I think this is a provincial issue as much as it's a municipal issue. Improving our transit system really is going to make a big difference. That being said, I do still need my car. I need to get my kids from A to B, and I can't always hop on and rely on our transit system. We have a long ways to come on our transit system. SOBI and transit are interesting pilots. However, again, being a mother, I can hop on a bike, but where's my kid gonna go? So there's COBI, which is a new program we're looking into as well, which is a kids bike program. So if we're moving one person in my household, I need to move everybody else. So those are things that we need to be thinking about when we're talking about how we're going to deal with this traffic congestion. Like I said, I work downtown, I live downtown in this ward, I feel this pain. This is something we live every day. I know what you're talking about, Mike, that congestion. It is getting out of control, and it's something that we really need to focus on. And again, we need to take a holistic approach. When we're looking at traffic, we need to look at all angles and make sure that we're looking at everything all together and how it can work all together systematically to make sure that we have the best solution to traffic. It's a big one. Thank you.
You know, from a 30,000-foot view, there appears to be a number of great responses from the table tonight. And I'm a big advocate of embracing technology. And without trying to sound too repetitive about the light synchronization, there are other things as well, like smart buses. And what these buses do is they basically read traffic patterns and can feed back to a central hub what the conditions are and where things can be avoided and how we can move forward. I think another thing that's important that we need to adopt a new transit system, and if that means getting an in-depth third-party analysis for our transit system, and additionally, let's find and get best practices from other municipalities. You know, at the table it's been discussed, other towns, other municipalities have had wonderful success. You know, let's engage them and let's find out what have they done right. I mean, no sense spending all this money and doing something incorrectly. You know, let's share best practices. Again, the light synchronization, the QEW interchange, as I mentioned earlier, you know, and the high percentage of people doing the QEW hop on, hop off, as I like to call it. So, again, embracement of technology, I think, is our key. Thank you.
Yes, traffic is a terrible thing in Burlington and in our region, and there's no magic solution, but we have to approach it from multiple points of view. One is certainly let's improve our transit system by creating better systems, better routes, smaller buses, better linkages to other regional traffic or transit systems, express routes. If you can go from here to, say, Toronto, or here to Milton, or Georgetown, efficiently and seamlessly, a lot of people would use that. Why drive a car when you can get somewhere fast? So let's improve our transit systems. Technology, definitely. I don't know all the types of technology that can be used, although some were mentioned. Let's use technology as a tool to help us improve our traffic flow. Maybe we should create a traffic diversion plan so that when the DPW gets all messed up, traffic is diverted and routed in a certain way so we can avoid a lot of this through the neighborhood thing. When I can look out my window and I know immediately at 5 o'clock if something's gone wrong in Huey, because there's cars going by my house constantly. It's horrible. We should work with you can't change the geography of the area, but you can still work with the province to improve east-west routes. For instance, South Service Road on west of King Street. We have to find a way with the province to improve those east-west routes. And, but we have to develop as well a comprehensive transportation study before we invest.
And that's the end of your time. Thank you very much. And just being aware of the time, this will be the last question. Unfortunately, I've still got a pile of questions here, but this will be the last one, and we'll have the 2-minute closing statements. What specific tactics or strategies will you work to implement in Burlington to create a more sustainable city? And we'll go to Roland.
Have a minute to think.
Out of you two? Sure.
Yeah, there's a fantastic number of things that need to be done. We're really fortunate in Burlington to have Burlington Green Group, who've been a fantastic advocate for sustainable development, sustainable and green policies in every way. I want to see Burlington lead the way here. We're again in a world where some of the higher levels of government are stepping back from being willing to implement green policies. The municipalities are going to have to step into that vacuum. And I think I would love to see Burlington lead the way there. So it comes down to things like we've had talk about reducing the number of single-use plastics that are used. That goes for straws, of course, which we've heard about, but it also goes for plastic water bottles and a huge number of plastic items. The city should be trying to reduce those and cut them out. You also need to be prepared for climate change and the damage that climate change is going to do, is already doing. We had the flood 4 years ago. We need to be, when we're developing, when we're building, we need to make sure that we're not paving over the land to such an extent that we're making flooding worse, and that the pollution from runoff that goes into the lake is growing worse as well. So that's another really big one. And unless we get to grips with the entire water and runoff situation, we could be facing another flood. We've seen it in Toronto this year, we've seen the Ottawa as well. So we need efficiency in energy. Everything we do should be based around efficiency. Efficiency is the greenest thing of all. And I think it's also the way that we can sell green policies to people. Cutting out waste. Waste is material, waste is money, whatever kind of waste it is an anti-green emotion, if you like, not emotion, but an anti-green movement. So I want to see as much of that as possible. As I watch my numbers count down and I peter out. Thanks.
As I say, there's no necessity to use
Hey, yeah, so When it comes to sustainability in Burlington, I think I'm probably the leader at this table. I've got a master's in business and environment and a diploma in environmental management. So even when it comes to what I want to bring to the table is this is my brochure. It's a bookmark. It has all the key points that you need to know about. And then you see my competitors. Waste not, want not. You have brochures that I've seen in recycling bins and going down the street. And then the lifespan of this is 24, 48 hours. So you can keep using this and see my face. So that's just one. So efficiency is everywhere. I mentioned lighting efficiency. I cut down on costs for staples by 40%, our bills. When it comes to trees, I'm all for protecting native species. I was a board director for Burlington Green and helped with start the initiation of the community gardens, which I'd like to see further expanded because of the success of them. I laughed at some of the tweets and the Facebook posts about the milkweed initiative. That was exciting, but I've had that in my backyard for 16 years, and we've been raising butterflies for a number of years. So waste, when it comes to sustainability, it is about waste and saving money, and that's what that's what I do for a living. I've created 11 different waste diversion programs for Staples, and we've reduced our waste down to 92% waste diversion rate, and aiming for 100%. And when you're cutting down waste, you're actually cutting down cost. If you're cutting down cost, you're not spending money, and that savings can be returned back to you. Hence, we don't have to cut services, we can cut down waste, and keep our taxes low. Thank you.
Kimberly, I'll repeat that question. What specific tactics or strategies will you work to implement in Burlington to create a more sustainable city?
It's interesting because when you say sustainability, that's a question, that's a word that I'm using often throughout my literature, and my mind doesn't necessarily just go to the green side of things as well, although that's very important and part of my priorities as well. Sustainability is how I'm talking about why we need the growth, why we need the change in our city, because we won't sustain without it. And that's a word I'm using often when I'm out door knocking. There's so many different ways of looking at this. So we have the opportunity here to be leaders. You have the opportunity to elect a leader in all things sustainability. There's green sustainability, we talked about the straw initiative. There's economic sustainability. There's the tree canopy, which we haven't discussed this evening as well, and tree bylaws. There's charm and character. I had this amazing conversation with Troy from the block downtown, and he was talking about, you know, what the charm is and he wants to sustain the charm. And I said, where's the charm? What's the charm? How can we save the charm? And he said, I'm outside sweeping my front porch in the morning. I'm waving at the guy across the street. You know, we're all working together. Here comes the mailman. Hello. That he wants to sustain the charm. So many ways of looking at this. When we're talking green again, I'm very interested in permeable driveways and in green roofs. I think those are excellent ways that we can work together with Burlington Green and other people to ensure that we can protect ourselves from floods. So many things. We need to be efficient and effective on all levels of sustainability. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think here citizen engagement is really key. I don't know if current council or city staff have all the answers. I don't believe so, and I'm a big believer in asking for help when you need help. And I mentioned it earlier about getting best practices from other municipalities. And as an example, what's Oakville just recently done? Well, they had a project where there was a $10 donation that went from Oakville Hydro, and it was, if you switch from paper bills to e-bills, they would make a $10 donation in your name for new trees. 1,680 new trees were planted with that initiative. What a fantastic initiative, and I think that's something that we could clearly replicate, and we could even maybe take it to the next level. Why don't we do it with our property taxes as well? You know, we get them every year in January. What difference would it make if you got it electronically? You pay it electronically most likely anyway. So I would be a big believer in that. I think also that we need to market to and education of the residents for next level recycling. In a most recent trip to Europe, I was just absolutely astounded by the embracement of recycling when it came to all the various communities. All the businesses, all the residents, all the homeowners. Right on major intersections, there's large, and I mean large, 5-foot tall recycling containers for different types of garbage and different types of recycling materials. So, you know, we need to take a page out of different playbooks, and we don't need to recreate the wheel every time. We just need to take a look around and ask our neighbors, what are you doing right? Thank you.
I don't have all the answers either, but many of them have been already stated at this table. Michael has some fantastic ideas and also a lot of expertise, it would seem. The council should encourage citizens to reduce use of plastics, paper, also by investing in public transit and making transit more affordable and efficient. We can also help our sustainability by eliminating a lot of pollution. We should set targets for tree canopy and parkland for residents so that we maintain our green spaces. We should make sure that our lakefront is not eaten up by developers and that all citizens have access there. And as Walter said, we can learn from other jurisdictions and places, and that's what we should be doing, borrowing ideas from them. Thank you.
Sustainability, no, yes?
Yes.
This is not a sustainable microphone. Sustainability is important to everyone because it speaks to the next generation and it speaks to why we're looking today for a leader with vision. Sustainability is something that's not just green, it's about character, it's about the quality of life, and it's the way that we feel about our city. And so that's why many of us are maybe running, because we're coming together on so many points. I too love green practices, working in procurement, that's a big priority. I look to that for my vendors, for my suppliers. And I think the City of Burlington puts in some good green practices as well from a procurement perspective, but that can always be built on. The company that I work for has won a sustainability award nationally by diverting 98% of all waste across the major laboratories. I personally am responsible for doing contracts that send out used equipment to different countries so that we're taking that out of our landfill. And one of the things that was stark to me was when I was watching the presentations for the downtown streetscape guidelines is that they offered two choices on Brant Street and Lakeshore. They offered garbage and recycle. We don't actually have multi-waste streaming downtown, and I think that's an initiative that we need to look at with the region so that we can help our restaurants and businesses get rid of their waste in a way that brings us closer to zero waste. At this point, they don't have a green option. The 421 Brant Street application, the Sustainability Development Guidelines, it offered a node to sustainable measures, but it didn't make a commitment, and I think we need to look back at our development applications and build in some strengthened controls around using sustainable materials. I do support the private tree bylaw. In fact, I would encourage anyone to come to my new YouTube site because that's what you need to be a candidate nowadays, and see the clear cutting that's happened on Martha while there's no private tree bylaw, and you'll see how that can affect our wastewater and our flood management. And my signs are vegetable-based ink.
And I thank you. Closing statements, and we'll go in reverse order. So Gerard, you're up.
First of all, I want to thank you for all coming out here. It shows that the Burlington citizens are really engaged in a democratic process, which is very dear to me. I would also like to thank my colleagues at this table. It takes a lot of guts to put your name on a ballot and to throw your ideas out there and have a lot of people scrutinize you. So I congratulate everyone at this table. Burlington is facing a lot of issues that will determine what kind of city we have for a long time from now, for our grandchildren and our children. We must make sure that we control the growth and manage these challenges. We must create or maintain our Burlington, the Burlington we love, while accepting change. Burlington is your home and Burlington is my home. Let's make sure that we keep it beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank the ECOB for putting this event on tonight and any other board debates that they're putting on. A job well done. Job well done. I also want to thank Mark for all his efforts and the other candidates for their feedback tonight. And I think it's abundantly clear that there is a lot of passion at this table for our community. And last but not least, I do want to thank my lovely wife for all her support as well. My credentials in 20 years of experience in international business speaks for itself. I've said all night that the city is a business and we better run it like one. I've managed $300 million budgets and it's no different than what the city has. I know how to negotiate with savvy, wealthy business people. I've done this and executed win-win scenarios my entire career. In the end, it's all about experience, because experience matters. I want to say again, I'm going to take an immediate 20% pay cut and donate 25% of my salary to local charities. We need a complete TDR, that teardown and review of our budgets. We are wildly overspending and it needs to be reined in. If we don't stop this lavish spending, you can be guaranteed that you're going to see another property tax increase in 2019, well above the rate of inflation. We must do more with less. We need an accountable, candid, and transparent council. And that's what I'm offering the residents of Ward 2. Check out my website at walterforward2.ca. Get out and vote. Even tonight, online, you can do it when you get home. Thank you for your time.
Burlington is a wonderful city, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us to keep it that way. As many of you know, I'm usually quite a positive person, hence the yellow all the time. But we have some things that we need to work on here. We have an infrastructure deficit. We desperately need a modernized transportation system. We need to replace thousands of trees due to an invasive pest. We need more services for our aging population, and we need to build safe infrastructure, roads for our families. These things all take money. They take a lot of money. None of us want our taxes to go up any higher, and I certainly know that I don't either. But I don't want our most essential services to be cut. We need to grow together, responsibly and reasonably. As a business person, I know this is the only way to survive and sustain. Keep moving forward. Some candidates tell you what they want to hear to get your vote. They'll tell you they can keep our small town feel and still afford all the bells and whistles. The truth is we cannot unless we work together. We can grow better and smarter and more reasonably together. Let's keep the conversation going about the kind of city we want and preserve the charm and character we all value so much. If we want to grow smart, we can pay for things like a new senior center, better transit, and more trees for our community. What I promise to do for you is to listen, to engage, and to tell you the honest truth about what can be done. No grandstanding from me. I will work collaboratively with the council and all members of the community to make sure growth comes with maximum benefits for our residents. I have more experience and more experience working for the betterment of our community and our downtown businesses than all other candidates combined, and I stand firm on that claim. I hope you will choose to vote for the candidate who sees the big picture and who looks for the years ahead, not just today. Choose a councillor that knows how our city works and has already been leading our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you to my fellow candidates for taking part, and ECOB as well. As a takeaway, I'd like to challenge you all to speak to at least 3 of us further after this meeting, before you actually put a candidate sign on your lawn, because you need an informed decision before you actually vote, even tonight with your phones. This is not a popularity contest. This is about skill and expertise and commitment to you, the constituents. I have small business experience downtown. I have large corporate experience as well. And I have the volunteer experience within the community. As a Ward 2 resident, we are fortunate to have all the people across the city invest in the extra features we have at our doorstep. But we have also been victimized by the votes of councillors in other wards. So I encourage you all to do the research on the Rorys, the Garris, the Lees, the Shawns, and Vinces in other wards. And reach out to your friends and families to vote for the correct ones that will assist us down here in Ward 2. I'd like to thank Mary Ann for her great service as our councillor for the last 2 terms. And let's work together to get the community and city that we'd like. I've been delegating on your behalf for 10 or more years, and I'd like to see a new council that is engaging and believes in the people. Let's take this council together to get the desired outcome we deserve, and we need to stop our city from its current trajectory. Lastly, I'd like to thank my partner and my daughter. She's my campaign manager, my family, and my dad back there. He's my biggest fan. So thank you, Dad. So be sure to vote and get your friends to vote for the right councillors in the other wards, because we haven't had the votes that we wanted over the last 2 terms. So together we need to shape the city and really work to push for Ward 2.
And thank you.
So I'll just start my closing statement by adding my thanks again to E. Corbin and Mark Carr, and above all of you, for making these debates happen. And as volunteers who simply do this for the love of their city, I find it astonishing that volunteers like Penny Hirsch and Maria Adcock have had to face personal attacks and insinuation by both sitting councillors and people who hide behind anonymous social media accounts. All ECOP have been trying to do is to help the democratic process, so please know that your efforts are very much appreciated for making this the most debated and discussed election I believe has ever been held in Burlington. I started this evening being highly critical of Burlington Council. I want to finish by giving a positive vision for what the future can hold. In everything Burlington Council does, we need to listen to you. I want complete reform of the advisory committees to make them fully independent. I want residents to work with City Hall from day one when development happens to help negotiate what you want. I want residents to have choices in transportation and a transit system that works, easing congestion for all of us, whether we drive, cycle or ride the bus. I want Burlington Transit to be carrying 2 to 4 million additional rides per year by 2026. I want low-income seniors to be able to have their property tax frozen. I want all seniors to ride the bus free from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday to Friday. I want hard targets on affordable housing so that young and old alike can live here. I want to see a vibrant, walkable downtown characterized by access to the lake, low to mid-rise buildings, heritage and unique stores. But more than anything, I want to help deliver your vision for Burlington, not mine, your vision. After all, that's what a council is supposed to do. Thank you.
Please.
I close my book because I look at the faces in this crowd and the same faces that I saw back in December. They're the same faces that had a concern and were looking for a residents group to join together and bring your voice forward. And while ECOP's been thanked, it's also been dragged through the fire. And I want to acknowledge that I was one of the people that started that with zero intention of being here today. But because the community saw in me a leader and someone who was giving you the straight facts, distilling down complex documents, and letting you in on what was going on in City Hall. And so while the issues are going to change over the next 4 years, what you'll get from me as a candidate is someone who's going to hear your issues with an open mind and open ears, and feet on the ground to experience what you're experiencing. Because while I can say I want and I will as much as possible, I know there's people in this room that haven't even been touched on. There's small business owners that are sitting in a state of anxiety, not knowing what's happening on Brant Street. I see the groups from Plan B still not knowing where that application stands. I see people with mobility issues, people with transit struggles, and I see people that are very compassionate about building this Burlington we can continue to be proud of. And so while there's a tremendous amount of talent on this stage, I've got ahead of the issues, I brought your voice forward, and I can tell you that today and every day, I'll represent you with integrity, and as we move through the issues over the next 4 years, I'll always be there for you. I'll be there for you as we challenge height and density, as we work through the official plan, as we build a transit system that's going to work for us, as we invite new residents into Burlington through housing affordability. We'll talk about accountable planning, and I'll manage your tax dollars with respect. And I'll do all those things through passion and care, because I think that is what people in this room are wanting today, and they haven't felt it, and they're looking for that in a leader with vision. So thank you for coming out tonight.
Please join me in thanking all of the candidates for their efforts. Remember to vote October 22nd. Drive carefully, everyone. Thank you.
Before you leave, Margaret will have the final words. I want you to note two important dates. October the 3rd, Burlington Green is hosting an all-candidates and mayoral debate at the Nouveau Network on 1295 North Service Road. And secondly, ECOG is hosting a mayoral event on Tuesday, October the 9th at Central High School, and the doors will open at 6:30. I would be remiss if I did not express some official thanks, first of all to Burlington Baptist Church for this venue. To Dogsworth and Brown, who have provided parking space. A special thanks to Mark Carr. I think you've already given him applause. Thank you very much for your participating. But to you residents, you show your interest, your enthusiasm, and I express my thanks to you. I wish you all a safe drive home. Good night, and thank you again.